Well, hi there. Warm welcome. You watching Decoding Now with me, Meghna Deka. Well, tonight we will take you inside Iran's extraordinary push to prepare its people for a possible war. Not soldiers on the front lines, but it's civilians in city squares, in mosques, and even television studios. As lasting peace remains elusive, there are fears of American ground assault, which is slowly building. Which is why perhaps Iran is now raising what appears to be a civilian resistance army. A call to arms sent to women, children, and even the elderly. In this national preparedness, is this psychological warfare, or is it a desperate signal from a regime which is bracing for a wider conflict? Well, tonight we are going to bring you videos, the messaging behind the videos, and mobilization which is slowly unfolding inside Iran at a time when we are hoping that there is going to be some peace agreement soon. But what's happening inside Iran's resistance army? Let's tell you. Women are learning weapons drills. Children are undergoing combat training and arms and weapons training. Public gun kiosks are being put up across Tehran and several of the other city squares. Even the state television is openly teaching viewers how to handle rifles. In fact, one of the Iranian TV anchors fired an AK-47 live on air. Another one of the Iranian anchors declared, "We are ready to die for Iran." So as you can see, from housewives to school children, from TV studios to military-style drills, has Iran entered total war mode? What does it mean psychologically for the peace deal? Well, first, let's show you some truly shocking, deeply unsettling videos. Here is a young woman seen cocking a gun, surrounded by other women, and some of them are even children. These are disturbing images, not just because of the weapon in her hands, but because of the young faces in this frame, where women and children are now picking up the guns instead of books. And here, the next video. Several women can be seen assembling and cleaning firearms. Look at them standing there in a line, learning how to assemble, how to clean firearms as they are being taught the mechanics and the importance of weapon maintenance. These are striking visuals showing not just the familiarity with the weapons, but the structured instructions which are being given to them for the use of weapons, for the upkeep of weapons, so that these young women are ready for combat. Another video we are going to show you on your screens. Large assembly of women who are armed. They can be seen in a gathered, almost like a military drill. They are holding firearms, they are holding the Iranian flag, you can see on your screens. And they are chanting pro-war slogans. You can see them saying that this is going to be in the defense of their motherland. These are powerful, very deeply unsettling images, capturing not just the symbolism, but a charged atmosphere of militaristic fervor that raises serious questions about the normalization of conflict in areas such as Iran, decade after decade, where it has seen conflict. And if that wasn't disturbing enough, viewers, there are also visuals which show children. Yes, mere children. You can see them on your screens. Children being seemingly prepared for conflict, being shown how to handle firearms. In this particular frame itself, young boys, this young girl, they appear to be no older than a few years, 7, 8, perhaps 10 maximum. They are being instructed on how to use guns and rifles. This is the disturbing reality where children have been singed by the cloud of war. There are other videos also emerging of what appears to be a formal workshop where a military instructor is seemingly explaining the anatomy of a firearm and its inner workings. These are open workshops which are being held when you have children being taught how to use these firearms. These are not fleeting or symbolic images. They suggest that there is a structured instruction which is being given by the Islamic Revolutionary Guards. It is methodical training, and this is an organized effort. These are efforts, drills being carried out by Iran's very powerful Revolutionary Guards Army. But these efforts to train children appear to raise some very serious questions under international UN treaty specifically created to protect minors, the Convention on the Rights of Children, a global charter which is designed to safeguard childhood, not expose it to the machinery of conflict. Let's tell you a bit about the UN Convention on the Rights of Children. Article 3 in it says that the best interest of the child must be kept in mind. Article 6 refers to the right to life, the right to survival and development for these children. Article 19, this one refers to the protection from violence of children. Article 36 of the UN Charter deals with protection from exploitation. Article 38, protection from armed conflict of children. Many are now saying that these weapons training army drills violate the UN Charter, which has been written specifically to shield children from conflict. But then, viewers, we have Iranian state TV presenters also going on a war hysteria. You have Mobina Nasiri, who appears on the screen holding an AK-47. You can see her there. This is a live show which she did. She declared, I am ready to sacrifice myself for Iran. These are the kind of voices coming on Iranian state-run televisions where anchors are holding up rifles and saying that, like you, I will also sacrifice my life. But perhaps the most shocking visual of it all, viewers, is coming in this one, the one that you can see on your screens now. Another Iranian media anchor, Hussein Hosseini, he can be seen on live television firing an AK-47 during his show. And all of this was inside the TV studio itself. That is how they are imparting weapons training. TV anchors holding up AK-47s firing in the studio. They are imparting arms training on television. Let's also take you through the key developments. Why is it that Iran feels that it must push its own civilians to the battlefronts? Why is it that Iran is training its women and children in arms training? Because they feel there may be a possibility of American offensive, and this one may be a ground offensive. The reason behind that is how diplomacy seems to be very elusive. Peace does not seem to be anytime soon. Let's tell you what the top developments have been of all the efforts which have been made to try and bring about some kind of a letter of understanding between Iran and US, which has been elusive. Pakistan's Interior Minister Mohsin Naqvi, he has made 2 rounds of Tehran already, and this in the last 5 days alone. Asim Munir, the Field Marshal of Pakistan, he is the one who's the face of this treaty negotiation between US and Iran, which has been going on for a month now. But nothing much has happened. There is still awaiting some kind of a headway. Asim Munir is the one who is allegedly tasked Naqvi to carry out these back-channel diplomacy. What we do here right now is that Naqvi has now gone to Tehran with US's proposal for a ceasefire. Naqvi holds talks with the top Iranian leaders. Even as we speak, he landed there earlier today, and now he is believed to have carried US-backed proposal to Iran to see if there is a middle path that can approach. Pakistan reportedly is pushing for round 2 of peace talks between US and Iran. Meanwhile, Pakistan's Field Marshal Asim Munir is also believed to be making his way to Tehran as mediation efforts enter a crucial new phase. What's happening on that field? Well, Pakistani Field Marshal Asim Munir will be visiting Iran. He will be expected to drive next phase of diplomacy. He's going to be heading it himself. Mohsin Naqvi is in Tehran. Asim Munir is also set to join him. Interestingly, the Defense Minister Khwaja Asif of Pakistan is not going to be part of these negotiations. Asim Munir is the one who's set to high stakes talks which are expected to happen in Iran itself. Meanwhile, let's tell you how the rhetoric between Trump and Iran has been heating up. Even as the diplomatic efforts continue behind the scenes in Tehran, the war of words on social media between the US President Donald Trump and Iran shows little signs of easing off. Both the sides are mongering for war. Both the sides are taking extremist views. Both the sides are trading sharp threats. Let's tell you, on your screens, you can see on one hand, you have Donald Trump saying, we may have to hit them harder, but you have Pezeshkian, Iranian president, coming out and saying, all diplomatic paths remain open to us. Then you have Donald Trump, the next quote that we are going to be showing for you. Donald Trump says that Iran will not get nuclear weapons. And Pezeshkian on the other side says, if aggression continues, then the war will extend. You can see the hardening of the stand. This is the way that you have both sides now digging in its heels, even preparing a civilian army when it comes to Iran. What can be expected in the next 24 hours? That's the big question. Let me go across to our panelists. Joining us today on the show, we have Aaron Aitan Mayer, who is an attorney. Also, Dr. Wael Awad is joining us, an expert of the Middle East. I'm going to come across to you first, Dr. Wael Awad. We can see the civilian army being rising slowly but steadily in Iran. You have women and children preparing to go to the battlefront. Are they expecting and preparing for the worst, or is this part of the larger psychological ops?
Well, I will take your second part of the question. It is more of a psychological preparation rather than a full-fledged war, because the United States will not have any kind of a ground offensive against Iran. What we understand that there are certain views, it may be just a small-scale attack by the United States and the chapter will be closed. Having said that, I would say that Iran is just preparing its people for two reasons. That they know that the Americans have been arming some of the minorities in the country, especially the Kurd, and there may be some sort of an attack for internal disturbances. And the second part also because they know that the economic situation in Iran becomes so bad and so harsh on the public. So they wanted to rally the people behind the government to stand and adamant against any of the American dictation that they will not surrender and they will be able to negotiate further.
So that's very interesting. So you say that a lot of this is psychological ops. Even if there is an offensive, it may be limited, but also there may be some internal rebellion which may be ignited. Perhaps this is preparation for that. Aaron Mayer, I'm going to come across to you. What happens in the next 24 hours? There are hopes, and this is across the entire world, that there is going to be some letter of intent, some letter of peace may be agreed upon, a proposal. What do we expect?
I'm hesitant to believe that a full proposal will be adopted and accepted by all sides. But the fact that Pakistan has been sending its high-level personnel over on such an increasing basis does mean that something is building behind the scenes. And all of this rhetoric, which is inconsistent but clearly designed to message to all parties concerned, it's telling me that something is brewing behind the scenes, and both countries are preparing their own people and the rest of the world for something that is about to develop. Past that, though, if we've seen anything from this entire war, it's that information has been not entirely accurate. I'll be gentle and say that. Okay. So we can't really predict at this point.
It's hard to predict. Dr. Wael Awad, would you like to venture into what may happen? We know that there is a lot of back-channel talks, but when we look at the posturing, the words which are coming out from both the nations, it is very maximalist.
Well, I fully agree with you. I think there is no full peace deal yet between the two sides, and that's what makes it more of a strategic pose between the United States and Iran. Both are defiant of their own rhetoric that they are not willing to succumb to the pressure. And the United States does not want it to come out as a loser of this war. Therefore, President Trump may be looking for some kind of, a triumphant exit of this war. And that's why we are expecting some sort of a swift attack by American on some of the installation in Iran. And I believe, and I have a strong feeling that there is some kind of an arrangement have been reached between the parties. So therefore, we are more war at the media sites rather than actually on the ground. And that is what, because most of the world is worried about the outcome of any kind of escalation, because Iran, if Iran is been attacked fully and the infrastructure destroyed, especially the oil, that means all the neighboring countries, the GCC, will be totally destroyed by Iran, has been threatened already. And already Iran is also talking of some other side, which means that maybe Bab el-Mandeb and the Red Sea could be the region. And imagine if the Red Sea gets closed, the Strait of Hormuz get closed, that means you will have half of the world trade will be affected, because 1/5 is in the Strait of Hormuz and 12% is in the Red Sea. So therefore, there will be a global catastrophe, and no one can afford that. And if the Asian country paying the price currently because of the current situation, Europe will not be in a position to stand any prolongation of this war. So therefore, both sides are looking for an exit, but both sides wanted to be a winner.
And which is why perhaps these psyops that we can see on our screens become very important, because, and Aaron Mayer, many are saying Iran is killing it, literally killing it on social media with the memes, the way they have trolled President Trump. There is also mounting displeasure, disapproval against President Trump within your own party. When you have, within his own party and within the own country. So Aaron Mayer, videos such as this, where you have TV anchors holding up AK-47s, young women, children holding up guns, does that add to the public pressure which is building on the Trump administration?
At the moment, it might seem that way. But let's not forget that the Convention on Rights of the Child was merely the codification of one of the oldest rules of customary international law, the notion that children cannot be allowed to fight. And Iran is flaunting that very, very publicly. And they're doing it because, in part, yes, if let's say, hypothetically, United States troops went in and they were faced with a series of 13-year-old soldiers, it would be catastrophic visually.
And they've made that point very categorically, that US, as Iran alleges, has indiscriminately killed children, struck their schools. That's already backfired quite spectacularly on the American army.
Well, that's a failure on American responses. When a missile goes sideways or when there's an encampment by a school, unfortunately, the United States has not been proactive enough in explaining what the legal ramifications are, the responsibility, because nobody's paying attention. That's really what we're seeing again. International law is crystal clear. Children cannot be recruited to fight. It is absolutely forbidden. Iran is doing that as publicly as I've seen. And that is something we have to really, really take a look at.
Dr. Velawat, the kind of public sentiment which builds when you see young kids, and I agree absolutely with what he's saying, that children cannot be sent to the battlefield, they cannot be at the front lines, they cannot be sent out to fight an army. But psychologically, what does this mean when you have children, young girls, young boys being taught how to train, how to cock a gun, how to maintain a gun, how to fire a gun? And this is the video which is being pushed out actively on Iranian media, pushed out actively across the globe. Why?
Well, unfortunately, I would say that such kind of scenarios and such kind of pictures we are watching, it is more of a psychological warfare, as I said, but it also will lead to the world where there's a line between, become peace and the blurred line of really war going on. So that in your mindset will be totally disturbed, because we have seen children being killed in different parts of the world. We have seen them slaughtered in Gaza, and in Iran, in the school, and we have seen the things happening in Africa, all over the world, in Ukraine. So all this give you an indication that we are, as a human, losing our humanity. We are no more watching as if we are watching a board games or a games or a computer game. We are not showing any sort of a feeling that we are all human. We are all deserve to have a better life to live. And if we do not think on those lines, I think we do not deserve to really talk about how inhuman we become.
So it brings the humanity back into the war. The missiles, the drones, the economy, the Strait of Hormuz, 20% of oil supply lines, none of that matters at the end of it if humanity is the price that we need to pay for it. All we can do is hope that there is going to be some amount of breakthrough. Back channel talks are happening. But in the next 24 hours, will that be very critical to ensure that there is not just peace, but a lasting peace? Well, we certainly hope so. Thank you so much, Aaron Aiton Mayer, for joining us here on the show, Dr. Veer Lawad as well. With that, we wrap up the show. Thank you so much for watching Decoding Now. I'll see you again tomorrow, 6:30 p.m., right here on Times Now.